Now that we've shown you the two most common door sensors or window sensors used with this system, we're going to show you the next type of detector that you're most commonly going to be using. And that is a Honeywell 5800 PIR-RES. PIR means passive infrared. That's the type of technology that this motion uses. RES means res for residential, and that just means that it's the most common sensor used for a residential application. Doesn't mean you can't use it in a commercial application. In fact, for most small businesses, this sensor is perfectly adequate and is by far the most common motion detector used with this panel. It's the one that's included in all the kits on our website, as well as kits that nearly any company would be offering you. So, for our motion, unlike the door contact, which has a magnet and the sensor, this motion, we have a front plate with our Fresnel lens, and we have our back mounting plate. At the bottom, there's a little tab that you can depress to pop the sensor open, and now we have our back plate, which mounts to the wall, and then we have our actual motion detector, the circuit boards on the internal behind this plastic. We have our serial number at the top with our alpha number and our 7 digits. We have our model number, 5800 PIR-RES, and we have our battery installation spot. They give you nice visual indication of a plus and a minus. We have our same Panasonic CR123A. This is the same battery our 5816 sensor used, and we simply slide the battery in. Our motion wakes up. You can see the LED indicating that the device is live. When this sensor is first powered on, for the first 10 minutes, it will light up red whenever it picks up motion. Every time I move my hand, we're seeing the red light. That shows you your sensor, in terms of the motion detection, is working. It has not yet been programmed to the panel, so as we activate the device, the panel's not showing any faults or any indication that the sensor is live, but we're going to show you how you can program this sensor to the L7000 so that it will activate the panel when we're detected. You'll notice that this red light, after 10 minutes, goes away. We don't want to drain our battery by having to operate the LED every time we fault it once it's been accurately programmed and installed in the right spot. It just gives you this action so you can put it in the right spot and then walk throughout the room and see that, yes, it's picking me up in all areas. So now that we have our battery and now that we know how this device works, we can jump into programming to program it. From the home screen, we always jump into security first, then we hit more, and then tools. The tools is looking for one of two codes. You can either put the master code or the installer code. When doing sensor programming, it's always the installer code. By default, it's 4112. You'll notice it times out after a period of inactivity. Hitting tools will get you right back. 4112. Now we're in the programming screen. We're going to go to program and then zones. Every device is a zone with the sensor, with the wireless sensors, and we have some template zones shelled out. We also have some of the zones that we've begun to program. We're going to go ahead and select the next available zone, which is zone 8, and we do new and select it blue and then edit. When we do edit, we're now into the serial number, we're now into the zone programming page for zone 8, which is our next available zone. So for this, we're going to click into the serial number box, and you'll notice we've already lost, actually we still have, we can see that each time I wave my hand, we're getting the red light and we're getting an indication that the sensor has been activated. The first red light gave us the beep, the second red light gave us the serial number with the loop, and the third red light, or the third fault, activated the sensor. That only works if you're still in the 10-minute walk test period mode. So when you're doing your motion programming, it's a good idea. Pop your battery out, put it in. That way you have your 10-minute period where the system is picking up the faults, and then that way the auto enrollment works. It takes the serial number and the accurate loop number 1, which is what the 5800 PIR res needs, and we didn't have to type in our serial number. If you've already installed your battery and it's up on your wall, you no longer have the available walk test option where the light is faulting, and you would have just had to manually input your serial number. So you can do it either way. Just keep in mind, you need to put that battery in within 10 minutes of programming the sensor if you want to be able to just actively fault it with your hand to program it in. Now that it's programmed, we want to name our zone. Instead of just generic zone 8 and having to remember that's our living room motion, we can name it. So the first thing we want to do is choose the device type. What kind of sensor are we going to program? In this case, very clear, we want to program our motion sensor. Highlight motion sensor, and if we left it like this, if this was our only motion sensor, we could leave it like this. We don't have to give it a clarifying name, but if you're going to have more than one motion in the house, you can use zone descriptor 1 and zone descriptor 2 to give a qualifying name for which motion is this sensor zone 8. In our case, we want living room. We're going to highlight
laundry.
The first word of L is indicated when we hit the letter L. We don't want laundry. We can hit
laundry room,
the down arrow to cycle through
left,
and see all of the available L words in the library.
level,
Or as a shortcut, we know living room is LI. Oops, not LU. So we're going to do back.
laundry, library,
LI takes you to the first word in the library of LI, and if we do V for LIV,
living,
takes you to living. Now living's good, living motion would be a good way to name it, but if you do one more down arrow,
living room,
you actually get the clarifying living room, which to me sounds a little better. It's still just considered zone descriptor 1, so even though it's 2 words, if we do done, we could still name it living room west motion or living room east motion in case you did have more than one living room motion. In our case, living room is the only one we're going to have. We're only going to have one in the living room, so we're going to leave it living room motion. And the next question is response type. On a motion, in probably 9 out of 10 times, you're going to use one of 2 options: interior follower, interior with delay. This is can be very confusing as to choosing which is which. The general rule, every motion should be interior follower. What that means is this motion will follow the delay of whatever device is triggered first. So if you enter your front door, which is a delay zone, so you open your 5816, which is a delay zone, you walk inside, the system is on delay. It's beeping to alert you to disarm the system or else the alarm's going to go off. If you then pass in front of the living room motion, it would know to follow the delay of the front door. If it didn't follow that delay, you would have an alarm as soon as you hit your living room motion, and you'd be activating a false alarm every time you come home if you have to pass through the living room on your way to the Lynx touch panel to disarm the system. So the follower allows you to say, okay, if my motion is activated first, if they somehow break a window and get into the living room without first activating a delayed zone, then this will trigger an alarm right away. But if the entry door is violated first because the homeowner is coming home, it knows to follow the delay. The other option is interior with delay. This one's not as confusing. It's exactly as it says. It's an interior device, it's a motion device, but it is on delay at all times. So whereas the follower is a little more secure because you get the instant activation if it's the first device triggered, this one would be a delay zone at all times. Even if they came through the roof and activated the motion first, you would have a 30-second delay before the alarm goes off. The only reason you would want to set a motion to interior with delay is if it looks directly at the front door opening. So if we had our front door here and we had our motion in the living room, and this front door opening, which would normally put it into the delay mode and the motion would then follow the delay, if the motion looks directly at the door, then the door opening would trigger this motion before it had time to follow the delay. So in that case, to avoid a false alarm every time we come home, we have to set it up with interior with delay. Again, not quite as secure, but we also have to have convenience and we have to avoid false alarms. So that's when you would do interior with delay, if your motion looks directly at a delayed zone. In our case, it doesn't. We're going to do interior follower. When we open our front door, the motion doesn't see it. We have a little alcove. Once we walk past the alcove, we hit the motion, it would know to follow the delay. So we have our serial number, our loop number, we've named it, and we've chosen how we like the motion to activate, and we're good to go. Alarm report is whether or not we would want a motion alarm to transmit to the central station. In our cases, we do have monitoring for this system. We do want this motion to activate the alarm at the central, so we're going to leave that as yes. Chime. On a motion, most people leave this disabled. You do not want to hear a chime every time you walk through your house, or at least most people don't. You could set it to chime, and then it would activate a unique living room motion chime when this device is activated. But for the most part, you only want chimes on doors and windows, not on interior devices. Last thing we have is supervision, and just as we've explained on the prior sensors, supervision says, yes, I want the panel to look for this device every 12 hours, look to see, is this device with this serial number checking in? If it checks in, then the system is happy, there's no trouble. If it checks in and doesn't see the motion, it throws up a Zone 8 supervision trouble. And that would mean that the sensor's either too far away or something's been damaged. For some reason, it's not being seen by the panel. You would get an indication that you have a trouble with your Zone 8, and you'd have a chance to go evaluate why it's in trouble. Now that we have all that set, we click Save. We have our living room motion sensor saved in now, and we can exit to the home screen, and we now have a working motion. Again, we're still in our walk test period. You can see when I activate it, oh, I think we just lost our walk test period. You saw it was showing faulted, and then it went not ready to arm. There it goes again. When the red light's indicated, it's showing not ready. Just like a door, you cannot arm the system if someone is in front of the motion. So it's just like not being able to arm with the back door wide open. You can't arm with someone walking around your living room. As soon as everything is still, the sensor goes back to ready to arm, and you're ready to arm the system. As soon as I move my head, it faulted again. So you can see how sensitive this is picking me up. One other clarifying point on the motion detector, because we set it as interior follower, or it works the same for interior with delay, any of the interior response types, when you arm to stay mode,
Armed stay. Exit now.
that means I'm telling the system I'm staying in the house, or at least some members of my family are staying in the house. When you're in the house, the motion is not on. That way you can walk throughout your property without triggering the motion.
Armed stay. Exit now.
So,
Disarmed. Ready to arm.
If we were going to leave,
Time.
if we were going to leave the house, we do armed away, and then the motion is active. When we're in the house, we do armed stay. The doors and the windows are active, but the motion is not. In conjunction with that feature, unlike on the older L5100 system, the L7000 supports what's called night arming. And you'll notice most zone pages, you only have this top level section. You don't have a down arrow. Once you choose device type motion, you do have the option to hit down. When you hit down, there's one option. It's a toggle, yes or no. It's called arm night. If we set it to yes and we save it, you'll notice when we come back out to the home screen, when we click arm stay, we have a clarifying option. This arm night, it's a toggle, and you can say yes or no. When you say no, you're telling the system arm just with doors and windows, no motion. When you highlight arm night, you're saying do doors and windows plus whichever motions I have selected with the arm night selection. So let's say my living room is on my bottom floor. Maybe I have a ranch and I'm talking about my very bottom level living room. In the middle of the night, everyone's in their bedroom. Maybe they go to the kitchen, or maybe they go, to the family room. But we're going to say to the family, we are never going to walk in front of our living room motion. So now that we have our living room motion set to arm night, if we arm it to night, this motion is still active. So it's just a nice option to give yourself certain motions that are still active in the stay mode, but the special stay mode, the night stay mode. So that's an important feature that's offered with the L7000. It's a feature that the Vista series control panels could always do, but the old L5100 could not. So that's an option only if you have a motion programmed with the arm night. If all of your motions had that option off, you would not see this clarifying option. Once you have at least one motion active in that mode, you can arm to night, and then that motion will still be active. So that's our rundown of our 5800 PIR-Res Honeywell motion detector programming going to our Lynx Touch L7000.